Let's be honest, Xbox is in complete disarray right now. Layoffs, studio closures, broken promises, and a fan base divided between blind loyalty and pure frustration. This isn't about just bad business decisions, it's about a gaming brand that has lost its identity. Today, we're going to talk about the real reason the Xbox ecosystem is falling apart. And no, it's not just Phil Spencer, Game Pass, or even corporate greed. It's something much bigger, a total lack of accountability from the people running the show and the people hyping it up just for clicks. This video isn't about console wars or dramas. It's about bringing light to what I think is the biggest problem the Xbox brand faces. How did we get here? Who's to blame? And is there even a way forward that doesn't cost thousands of more people their jobs? Let's dive right in. Part 1, the culture of unaccountability. Now, the word accountability is something that people in the industry seem to dodge like it's a plague at this point. Anytime news drops about layoffs or another studio shutting down, people rush to point fingers. It doesn't matter at this point if it's Xbox, PlayStation, or Nintendo, everyone just picks a side and starts yelling. It's mildly entertaining in the moment, but overall it's pretty exhausting. And honestly, a lot of these loud voices, I don't even think they play games anymore. It feels like their main mission is just stirring the pot for clicks. Sure, you've got a few who've been around for years like Destin, but once you scratch beneath the surface, it's clear that most of these big quote unquote influencers are just corporate shills. They won't show their true opinions unless their backs are against the wall. And honestly, I think that's what bothers me the most, this performative nonsense of it all. People pretending to stand for something just to grow a brand. Outrage becomes a product, and at the center of it all is a moving goalpost, constantly shifting based on what benefits them in the moment. I mean, I get it. Game journalism is pretty much dead on arrival at this point, but something has to give. One of the clearest examples of this lack of accountability is the Microsoft acquisition of Activision. On paper, it looked like a power move, but in reality, Xbox couldn't even manage their own stable of studios. So why were people hyping them up on taking even more? Let's just call it what it is at this point. Xbox has been a mess this generation. Yeah, Nintendo's been pushing the $80 games, which, let's be honest, is probably going to become the standard pretty soon, which sucks, but I mean, inflation is inflation. And Sony seems determined to fumble their lead with their awful live service push, but Xbox? They've somehow managed to make everyone's mistakes and add their own to the pile. In Game Pass, I mean, the honeymoon phase is kind of ending. I've been a subscriber since day one, and I'd bet money that a major price restructuring or a full overhaul in general is coming soon. Back to the influencers, even when analysts warned the merger might not work, these folks insisted that it was the key to overtaking Sony and Nintendo. And now in 2025, we see how that has played out. 9,000 people just lost their jobs. Projects like the Perfect Dark remake got shelved. Xbox shut down its user research team. And even established proven studios like the one behind the Forza series are getting gutted. And where's the accountability? Nowhere to be found. The same influencers who cheered the acquisition refuse to admit they were wrong. Instead, they spin the narrative and keep parroting the corporate line. Xbox couldn't manage their IPs they already had. I mean, let's be honest, Gears of War was pretty dormant until the E-Day announcement last year. Fable's been pretty quiet and was weirdly absent from the Xbox game show, and Halo's a shadow of what it once was. But they insisted adding more studios was part of some genius strategy. And now that real people have lost their jobs over it, these voices are just running PR for Microsoft. That's what this all comes back to, accountability. We're not talking about a few trolls online. We're talking about major figures in the space who cashed in on the hype and are now refused to own their part of the fallout. There are still some genuine folks out there just trying to enjoy games, but they're often drowned out by the loudest, most disingenuous voices in the room. And to be clear, this isn't just about Xbox. Nintendo and Sony have their own issues too, but right now, Xbox is the easiest punching bag because they keep making it easy. I've been part of this ecosystem for a long time, and honestly, I just want a way forward that doesn't come at the cost of more people's careers. So now that we've talked about accountability, let's move on to the face of the Xbox brand as a whole, which is the leadership. Part 2, leadership and messaging. Now, let's go back to the Xbox 360 era for a second. Remember Major Nelson? That guy was the Xbox brand, or at least he felt like it to my teenage self. He wasn't just some faceless suit selling us the typical corporate schlop. He really genuinely felt like one of us for the most part. Whether it was through his podcast or community updates, he connected with people. He wasn't the CEO or anything, but he sold the brand just as much as the games did back in the day. Now, though, we've got Phil Spencer. And I'll say right off the bat that I don't hate Phil Spencer. But there are two camps when it comes to him: the diehards who defend every word he says is the word of God, and the critics who think he single handedly run Xbox into the ground. And honestly, I feel like I'm somewhere in between. Phil's not fully in control. He's still an executive working under a $1 trillion company with shareholders to please. But that doesn't excuse everything that he's done. His job is to lead and communicate, and lately that communication has been all over the place. One minute Xbox is doing great, and the next they're closing beloved studios. Their exclusives are dropping on PlayStation now, and it feels like there's no clear direction. So, I mean, what at this point, what even is Xbox's identity? Some people blame the Xbox One generation for this mess, and yeah, it had its problems because the Kinect was the Kinect, and yeah, we're not going to talk about that. But I'd argue it was more stable than what we have now. At least the Xbox One sold better in its early years than the Series X/S has. Phil's not the only reason Xbox is struggling, though, but he has become the face of broken promises. His upbeat talk hasn't made any of the hard hits feel better, and he said this is all part of the quote unquote strategy, but come on, how many times can you rebrand failure as a vision, and how many times can you sell that this is all part of the plan, quote unquote? There's this weird duality to him as a person, and honestly as a leader. On one hand, he presents himself as a gamer's kind of like he presents himself as one of us. The t-shirts at his press conferences, playing indie games on camera. But on the other hand, he's overseeing a system where trust has all but eroded and is gone completely. Transparency is meaningless if you're just sugarcoating bad news. At some point, the community deserves honesty, not another rebranded roadmap that goes nowhere. Now, Sarah Bond is stepping in as the Xbox president, can either be the greatest thing or the worst thing in existence. I don't really think there's a middle ground. It's potentially a turning point, and she's already said that the Xbox as a console's future is secure, and there's a new partnership with AMD, which was announced a couple weeks ago at this point. Myself personally, I am cautiously optimistic. If she can bring clarity and energy to a brand that's floundering, she might be the fresh start Xbox needs. But she's got a steep hill to climb, I'm not going to lie. Players are burnt out. Morale inside Xbox teams is likely an all time low with this AI push and people getting fired left and right. And if the next console doesn't deliver something truly compelling, we could see even more people walk away. Not because they hate Xbox, but because they no longer recognize it. So now let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is honestly something that's been a hot topic on the social medias lately, primarily Twitter, because that's just the cesspool of the gaming community. But that is the topic of Game Pass. Now, Game Pass is either looked at as the savior of Xbox as a whole and the only reason people are still in the ecosystem, or it is seen as the thing that is single-handedly going to kill the Xbox brand. So the really question is Game Pass the golden cash cow, or is it a crutch that's kind of just holding up something that's already on its way out? Now, let's start off this conversation with the most obvious of points. I do love Game Pass. I've been an ultimate subscriber since day one, and it's been a great way to try out games I wouldn't have otherwise bought. Just in the past year, I've downloaded and played The Alters, I've downloaded and played South of Midnight, Indiana Jones, games that I probably wouldn't have spent 60, $70 on. But I mean, hey, I already pay for Game Pass, why not try them? So I think it's great in that regard. And honestly, back in the Xbox 360 days, I never would have thought I'd be playing dozens of titles for $15 a month. Let's just get that out of the way. It's been pretty awesome. But now I'm starting to wonder if it's actually hurting more than it's helping. And I think that's only because I've been a little more ingrained in the gaming space in the past year. Because the problem is Game Pass has become the entire identity of Xbox. The value is undeniable, and it brought people into the ecosystem. But really, what is the long-term impact? That's starting to show its cracks. If your business model revolves around everyone expecting new games immediately and for free, something has got to give. Studios need time, they need funding, and they need to sell games. Those are the three most important aspects of making a game. But with Game Pass as the central pillar, the pressure is on to keep feeding the machine, no matter what the cost is behind the scenes. And right now, it's costing jobs and closing doors. It's very evident by the 9,000 jobs just announced as being laid off. That's real people's lives. These aren't just numbers. Worse still is there's very little transparency on how Game Pass impacts game performance. Does it boost engagement? Oh, for sure. But does it boost the profitability? That is the $1 million question. And Microsoft isn't exactly being forthcoming with those numbers. It feels like they're hiding behind vague metrics because they know the picture isn't as rosy as they want us to believe. My take, let's not kill Game Pass. Let's just rework it a little bit. Give AAA games a 2 to 3 month window before they hit the service. Let people who are excited pay full price, support the devs, and let Game Pass serve as a second wave. That feels way more sustainable than what we have now. Because right now, the devs are caught in the middle. They either build around a service that doesn't guarantee returns, or they risk releasing outside the ecosystem and getting ignored. I mean, from a game development perspective, it feels like a lose lose situation. Again, this isn't about hating Xbox, it's quite the opposite, honestly. I want Xbox to succeed, but not if it means burning through developers, misleading fans, and cannibalizing its own legacy in the process. Game Pass was supposed to be the future, but without the right adjustments, it just might be another weight dragging Xbox down. So now here we are. I've talked about 3 points that I think are kind of screwing up the Xbox brand right now. And the question now really is, where do we go from here? Because honestly, the Xbox brand is in a bad spot right now. There's still a path forward. And I mean, we need new, honest voices in the community. We need leaders who aren't afraid to tell it like it is. And we need systems that actually support the people making the games, not just the ones selling the subscriptions to us. Xbox still has a chance to bounce back, but only if they stop treating the gaming space like a PR sandbox and start treating it like the creative, passionate world that made it special in the first place. Because at the end of the day, this stuff matters. To the fans, to the devs, to the legacy, and honestly, for all our sakes, of those of you that have been fans like me since the 360 and I've really supported them since the beginning, I think it's time to start acting like the legacy does matter and that, you know, we as the consumers matter. But as always, I hope y'all enjoyed this video. This is a little different than I usually do. I thought of an interesting concept, and I tackled it because, hey, this will be my 1 year on YouTube video. And yeah, let's make it a little spicy. As always, I hope y'all have a good rest of your day, a good rest of your month, a good rest of your year. And I will see you on the next video.